Generally speaking, a wooden floor should sound like this. And a concrete floor sounds like this. Wooden floor, concrete floor. If you've got a floor that you know is made out of concrete, but it sounds like it's made out of wood, then you've probably got a problem. Hiya folks, welcome back. And last time I was showing you around this renovation project that we did about 14 years ago now, and it was a small 3-bedroom, typical semi-detached UK property. The previous owner had done a very rough and ready kind of, well, they'd fitted a bit of a dodgy kitchen and they'd given the place a lick of paint, but really it needed quite a bit of work doing to it. And today I'm going to take you through what we actually ended up doing. And same as before, if you want to know how much this entire project cost, I'll be putting a bit of a cost breakdown over on Patreon. I did have a budget of 20k for doing this project. I'll pre-warn you now that, yeah, not a chance. Quick reminder of what we started with. So street side is over here, and then we've got kind of a front garden thing here, a bit of a driveway coming down here. You could technically drive a very narrow car down here, but I think you would struggle. It's not a very wide gap down the side of the house. And then we've got this great big kind of concrete garage thing at the back here, but as I say, I think you would struggle driving a vehicle down to it. You wouldn't ever use that garage as a garage. Main entrance, just come through here through a little hallway and into the living room. You've got an understairs cupboard under here, through into the kitchen at the back of the house, and then if you work your way upstairs, then you'll pop out onto a little landing at the top of the stairs, and that takes you off to bedroom 3, bedroom 1, which is nominally bigger than bedroom 2, but obviously bedroom 2 has the nice views out over the golf course. And briefly mentioned last time as well, hot water tank is here, and the bath is actually kind of more down that side-ish. So we came up with all sorts of weird and wonderful ideas for how we could basically try and make this property a bit bigger. Those random circles there just represent my drum kit, because I was trying to work out if I could fit my drums into a kind of studio room thing at the side there, but it wasn't really going to be viable. But yeah, in this idea we thought, well, maybe we could have a passageway coming through this way, keep the understairs cupboard, and then have a big kitchen diner at the back of the house. So obviously you would probably have a kitchen that goes something like that. So I think if I remember rightly, this was based on only doing a side extension here and not doing anything at the back. You would come up the stairs there, and then you would have a bedroom 2 over here, bedroom 3 here, and main bedroom at the back there. It would allow for a bit of a bigger bathroom, which would mean you could do a double shower. But other than that, you're not gaining any bedrooms. That's the big problem with this. You're still going to have a small bedroom here, which would be at the front of the property. That would have been bedroom 1, but it's still a small bedroom. What would now become the master bedroom here is still pretty small. And okay, you've got what would be bedroom 2 now, but it's still barely big enough to put a double bed in. So you're talking a lot of expense to gain very, very little. You're basically gaining a nominally bigger kitchen and this room at the bottom here, and your bedrooms would be a bit bigger. An extension like that would probably cost at least 40 grand, I would have said. So yeah, not happening. So then we had this idea of building on the side and on the back of the property, and that would allow for basically a 2-story extension for the back of the bedroom, for the back of the main master bedroom. It just would have been prohibitively expensive. Again, we would never make our money back on an extension like this. We weren't doing this to make money, but at the same time, we knew that we probably couldn't live here forever. I've just drawn an outline of what the original property size would have been, very badly. So you're looking at all this new area here, and obviously on the first floor, you've got this new bedroom extension here. But yeah, crazily expensive extension. If money was no object, I would love to have done something like that, but And then this was just mucking about with different ideas just to see if there's any way that we could have got a 4th bedroom out of it, because if we could have justified the extension on the basis that it was turning into a 4-bedroom property, then we might have been able to get our money back on it. But yeah, just not happening. So in the end, what we eventually decided to do was to add a conservatory onto the back of the property, kind of here-ish. We'd take this window out, that would be the opening into the conservatory area. This doorway would be blocked up to here, but then we'd have a window going all the way across here overlooking the nice views and the back garden. We'll block this window up here. If you remember, this is the one that had the slight cracking, probably due to a complete lack of lintel. That window was just a pain in the neck anyway because it just used up wall space and didn't really overlook anything. So what this would allow us to do is to continue the kitchen round in a kind of U shape. We did want to add in a big kind of American fridge freezer, so we're going to put the fridge freezer here, double sink here, oven in this space here with obviously the extractor now on this wall. That used to be a window. Would have nice views across the back garden here from the sink area, and then would have kind of double patio doors taking it out onto a deck area at the back here. We've got this nice big kind of kitchen diner space here. Unfortunately, we couldn't really do anything with the upstairs, but what we did do was put new central heating in, and that meant that we could get rid of this boiler cupboard here, which allowed us to put in a P-shaped bath with a shower. But other than that, the upstairs would just get basically a lick of paint. So let me take you through the project. I'll show you the easy bits first. Living room, we took out that awful back boiler and gas fire, so it just gave us a bit of a bigger living room area there, and then we could build into the alcoves as well. As I say, bathroom, we had the old boiler cupboard taken out, and that allowed some extra space that we could get the P-shaped bath into. That's just the corner of the new bath going in there, and then you can see where the shower is going to be on the wall on the P-shaped bath there. Obviously that area there is where that boiler cupboard used to be. Front garden, needless to say, I had to trench in a new water supply. That was a fairly high priority in the scheme of things. Once the water supply was all done, we had the whole driveway area ripped up, a gate put on the side of the property there. I don't know if you remember, but there was a slightly wonky wall at the front here as well, so we had that taken out because it was half falling down. And then new fence down both sides of the property, brand new nice brick wall at the front, and then a big open driveway that we could comfortably fit 2 cars onto. We ended up going for pattern imprint concrete. It was before it was politically incorrect to do such things. And then the big job, the conservatory. So we can see the conservatory foundations just starting to be dug out there. I didn't do any of this work, by the way. I can't take credit for this. We had a company in to do this for us. You can kind of see where the conservatory is going to come up to, though. There's the existing doorway at the back of the property, and you can see obviously the conservatory is going to overlap where that doorway was. Bog standard brick and block construction. It's nothing to write home about. It's a fairly typical conservatory build. As part of all that work, we got them to brick up at the side of the property as well. And then on this shot, you can see where they've bricked up the back doorway there. They've managed to get an alright match on the brick. Not an easy match to match these from like 100 years ago or whatever, but that's the back doorway there, all bricked up, and obviously there'll be an opening behind there for the new window. So once the conservatory was all built, they could do the knock through into that area, and it just generally gave a really nice kind of open space. Then the kitchen. So this is what the kitchen was like when we first moved in. It wasn't the best of kitchens. So what I managed to do was I ripped all of this out, sold the oven and hob and sink, everything else. Just, I can't remember if I sold the units or gave them away or something. I can't remember. That window there is where the opening into the conservatory ends up being. But as I briefly touched on at the beginning of this whole video, when we first had our viewing of the property, I was fairly convinced that all of the floors downstairs were suspended wooden floors because they all sounded hollow, including this floor in the kitchen at the back of the property. So this is obviously the kind of kitchen diner area of the kitchen. and it had these awful kind of vinyl floor tile things on, so it was really difficult to tell what the floor really was made from until we started removing some of these tiles. And it was only after removing a couple of rows of the tiles, it was like, this floor isn't wood, this is made of concrete. And it was like, hold on a second, this isn't good. Concrete floors shouldn't sound hollow. So I knocked a hole in the floor in the corner of the room, and sure enough, there was basically about a 1 or 2 inch gap underneath the floor. So basically there was nothing holding the floor up, it was just held up by the edges. And the subfloor underneath had just sunk over the years, over like 100 years of settling. The floor had completely sunk, but left the concrete exactly where it was. And it was only thin concrete as well, so no option really, I had to dig the floor up. Fortunately, since the floor wasn't particularly thick, it came up fairly easily. But watch out for that, ladies and gents. If you've got a concrete floor that sounds like a wooden floor, then it's almost certainly the subbase underneath has sunk over the years. So ripped it all up, tampered it all down. I mean, that's as settled as it's ever going to be now. It's not going to settle any more than it's already settled. But on the plus side, while the floor was up, it meant that I could fit the new water supply going underneath the new concrete floor, ducted through the walls and then out to the street, and then ducted all the way through to the back end of the kitchen. And then new concrete just barrowed in. So you can see in this picture the new window, new lintel at the back of the property. The existing what was a window there is now all blocked up, and that's it all bricked up at the outside as well. Some people are probably asking why we didn't take the header row out, but I quite like leaving the odd little kind of reference to what the property used to be like, and I think that didn't look bad. You know, it's in an area that we were considering putting an extension onto the side of the house anyway, and it's not exactly an area that you're going to see very often, but it just does paint a little picture of what the house used to be like. And then we had the usual challenge of having to do everything in an order so that we always had a kitchen, and at this point here I'm actually jacking up the kitchen to try and get this bench out while leaving the rest of this kitchen in place, which was a bit of a challenge. And the reason at this point that I couldn't get rid of this section of kitchen yet, if you can see the dividing line down here, is because obviously we've got the gas hob over here, so I couldn't take that out myself because I'm not a gas person, but at the same time I couldn't get the plumber in until this whole section had been removed to give him a clear path to install the new central heating boiler, and then once he came in he took the gas hob out at the same time.
Right, I couldn't really get the worktop out, so I've cut the endy bit, so hopefully there's a bit left out now. Hey, check this out, cool. That endy bit's still well wedged in. Just get this out the row. This is the offending bit, and look, it's still attached to the wall. That ain't gone anywhere.
And then by this point, remember, we're still living in the property with like a sub 1-year-old baby, so I just had to run some temporary pipe work over to our temporary kitchen over on this side, and that literally just had to drain, and well, let me show you.
Excellent, we now have one successful plumbing system in the new kitchen, which used to be there. So the water comes in here, goes up there, comes, some of it goes up into the upstairs, comes down there, This will be the new supplies for the boiler, and there's a supply for the washing machine, and then the rest of it comes down there, and to the sink, which is now fully functional. The pipes move a bit when you turn the water on, but I'm sure that's nothing to worry about. We've got hot water as well, and when finished, the water comes out there, pushes into the bucket under there. Job's a good one.
You can just about see the combi boiler at the top of that picture there, and all of the new pipework for the central heating. and then just gradually getting the new kitchen installed. So then the final project, and bearing in mind this is all going on kind of in parallel, it's not like one job after another. But back garden, this is how the back garden started out. It was on quite a steep slope from the front of the garden to the back of the garden, and it was all overgrown, and we had this giant concrete shed with an asbestos roof over on the side here. Now bearing in mind you can't really see on this picture, but because of the slope of the garden, this shed's got some fairly substantial foundations to it, and it's even got a little pit in the shed. I don't know what you would actually do with that pit. It's barely big enough to get a person actually in it. You certainly couldn't stand up in it, but for whatever reason it had a little pit in it. Back then I had no need for a workshop or a giant shed like this. Our main priority was having a nice big back garden, so the shed had to go. So we knew this was going to be quite a big job, and we paid some guys to take this out for us because it was just a mammoth task. Not an easy job at all, but they got it done eventually. It took a good few days to get this shed out, not easy. But of course what that let me do was to use a lot of the rubble to raise up the bottom section of the garden and to dig down the front section of the garden to try and level it off a little bit. Not perfectly level, but certainly a lot more level than it was to start with. We had so much building rubble left over from moving that shed, and even after literally truckloads of concrete were taken away, it just made sense to try and use it, and we did. We raised the bottom of the garden by probably coming on for 1.5 feet, 2 foot. Fortunately, we had some help with some very good friends who helped us barrow lots of soil from the top end of the garden to the bottom end of the garden to try and level things out a bit, but it was back-breaking work. Terraforming a garden like this, it's not an easy job. Right, I'll show you what it all ended up looking like. I've got no pictures of the upstairs of the house finished. I don't know what happened to those, other than the bathroom. I think I've got one picture of the bathroom, but downstairs I've got a few pictures. So the living room, not a lot to report really. Not the best of finished pictures, unfortunately. This is before we even put stuff in the bookcases, but these are just box standard like Billy bookcases in the back here that I fitted into the alcoves, and obviously got the AV gear all wired in through the chimney breast and whatnot. The bathroom that did start life like this now has a nice P-shaped bath in it, new sink, new toilet, and all new tiling and whatnot as well. Then the front garden, again, difficult to show you because yeah, there is a new wall coming down the right-hand side here, and we've got the pattern imprint concrete that I mentioned before. I know you should go for block paving, but back then that wasn't really a known issue. Pattern imprint concrete was like the fashionable thing to do back then. And by the way, if you're wondering why you shouldn't really do concrete drives these days, it's because you should really have a permeable driveway where water can just soak down into the normal water course rather than running off into drains and causing flooding and all that sort of thing. So that's why pattern imprint concrete drives became a little less kind of socially acceptable over the years, because you should really go for like a block paved drive of some description. I'm sure someone can confirm that in the comments, but that was what I heard anyway. And then the conservatory, all done and dusted. I'll show you some more pictures of that in a minute. Here's the kitchen that I ended up installing, and you can see, I know the fridge freezer's big, but we really wanted the whole American fridge freezer thing, and ever since we got rid of that when we moved for the second time after this, we always missed it. Next property will definitely have an American fridge freezer again because they are amazing. And we just went for your classic kind of slab cream gloss with chunky handles, and I thought that came out pretty well. Nice views over the garden and everything, so did the job. Just went for laminate flooring throughout, and that just runs through into the conservatory. And then finally, the back garden. I'll just show you before I show you the final garden pictures. I ended up designing the decking to do this kind of thing, because obviously the decking had to have a bit of a staircase coming down to the new level that the garden was now on. Here's like your doors coming out of the conservatory here, and obviously there's a window here overlooking the back garden and this deck area. So we thought if we have a deck area here where we can have like a nice table and chairs, and then we also wanted a bit of a deck area here that we could put a chair on, and then you can just sit and kind of enjoy the views, really. And then rather than having one single big staircase coming down here, I thought if we can kind of break it up a little bit with this slightly lower kind of mezzanine thing going on, then you can have two sets of stairs that come all the way down here to this little area of decking here, and then finally down to the garden level at the bottom there. So I'll show you what that looked like. So this is it, kind of work in progress. Again, I didn't do the decking, I was working full time and had to pay someone to do this, but they did an alright job. There's the odd little bit which, like the joins here, I wouldn't have done the joins directly above each other in that area, but other than that it was fine. But you can see how the steps go up to this little terrace kind of area here, and then a few more up to the final kind of floor area at the top there. So let me just rewind a bit to before we had a lawn, and I'll take you through all of these pictures and you can see what the finished thing looked like. And that was it, all done and dusted, and honestly we loved living in this house, and it was just a fantastic garden area and chill out area that we had for our very young family at that point. And as per usual, just at the point that the whole house was finished, well, this happened. So the big question is, did we end up staying here and living in this house for a while? Of course we didn't, and you'll have to wait until the next installment of our renovation projects to find out what happened next. Now, we are mid-house move at the minute, so please bear with me. I'm doing my best to get videos out and done and dusted, but there's a reasonable chance that I'm going to have no internet for a period of time, so I'm going to try and get a few videos uploaded just to kind of keep the channel ticking over, but it might be a few weeks before we get the next installment of our renovation projects out there. But yeah, bear with me. I hope you found that interesting. If there's anything that you would have done differently, or you've got any questions or anything like that, pop it down in the comments below. Don't forget, if you want to know how much this project cost, head over onto my Patreon and I'll go through all the costings on there for you. For now, folks, take care, and I shall see you next time. Tatty, bye!